Hello, everyone, and welcome on to your Thursday night edition of the TII podcast. My name is Craig Dennett, and I'm joined this evening to look back to discuss all the latest Rangers transfer news. I was going to say look back, but it's only been like 24 hours, and there's been so much activity happening in and around Rangers, and we're going to talk about it all tonight. We've got the two new signings, Joe Rothwell and Emmanuel Fernandez, and we've also got plenty of rumours as well. Thelo Aasgard, we can argue over pronunciation of that one shortly. Coady's still on there, and Djiga as well from Wolves is on the list. I'm sure there are plenty more that I've missed, and feel free to put them in the comments as we go. But how you doing, Kyran? Been a busy 48 hours for Rangers?
I'm good. It certainly has. I don't know if you can confirm this or anyone in the comments can, but I can't remember the last time we announced two players in the one day.
Yeah, I can't remember. That tends to be a transfer deadline day kind of move, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the Fernandez signing was completely out the blue, and I know we'll get right into it, but it's fascinating when you look at the timeline of how things have worked out with when the takeover went through, and everyone spoke about the 1st of July being this sort of start of the football financial year, and things will start to come in place. And I know people say that out of hope sometimes, but it looks like that's been the case, because you think the 23rd of July is when the EGM was, the £20 million share scheme was voted through. So that would then be included in last year's, what do you call it again, FFP or whatever, is it FRP you call it now?
Yes, now, isn't it?
Yeah, which means that you can spend it in this year. So then comes the 1st of July, we've got money to spend. We did think that Aasgaard would go before the 1st of July, which hasn't happened yet, and which would probably gives a bit more. But it looks like, and when you listen to Rothwell's comments about we've been working on this for a while, it sounds like they've had them queued up and ready to go, and then all of a sudden, boom, that's exactly what we wanted. And yeah, I'm sure we're going to get right into it.
We absolutely will, and it does feel like it's been everyone's lined up to go, and they're just pressing the button as they go along day by day. So which feels good. I mean, JB's spoken at length this week on Sunday podcast, and then Tuesday as well about Coady and the sort of contacts he's had with people around Liverpool and that kind of area, saying it's a done deal. It's just pretty much waiting to be announced, and so you just get the feeling it's all lined up, it's all ready to go, and it's quite. I think when we spoke on Sunday, Kyran, we were all a bit nervous about the fact that we hadn't really done much. Max Aarons was the only one in through the door, and how are we going to get the squad ready for the Champions League and all of that sort of stuff. It's been a bit of a whirlwind the last few days, and it actually feels like we're going to be on the verge of 5, 6, 7 or 8 signings this week, which would be quite an incredible turnaround.
It would be great, but do you know what I like? I forgot to mention it in the sort of timeline bit I was discussing there. We go to St George's on Monday, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so next week's the training camp in St George's. End of the week we play Middlesbrough. What I really like about this, when you're trying to bring in so many players and there's such a turnover in the squad, you've got a manager that's coming in that plays such an intricate style of football. Now, you think, take out of the context of Rangers and playing under a manager that plays that sort of style of football, but it's going to take a lot of instructions to the player and a lot of guidance. It becomes more difficult when you're bringing in a signing this week, another 2 guys in 2 weeks' time, when he's done it all already with the team, and then he's having to do it again, and then he's having to do it again and integrate more people in. See, getting the business done early, it's underrated how important that is in terms of, you think of having Max Aarons, Lyle Cameron, Joe Rothwell, Fernandez, all in the door already. We're probably, if things are led to believe, that we're probably going to have Aasgaard and another 2 centre-backs in by the time we go to St George's. When he's relaying this out to the full squad, this is how we're going to play, we're going to work on it, and this is how we're going to go about it. It makes such a difference to have all these guys in already, without having to go over old ground constantly with 1 or 2 players coming in here and there. That's not to say that won't happen, but it makes a difference having that many people come in, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does. And for podcast purposes, we always like to talk about the incomings, because that's what's exciting, and that's what gets people talking and looking forward to new seasons and to the team. But it's becoming more and more obvious that outgoings are increasingly important as well as we're building this squad, and it doesn't feel like there's been too many. I saw a list earlier on today. It spoke about Cifuentes, Dowell, Davies all being back at Rangers with seemingly, I'm not going to say nowhere to go, but there's no imminent move set for them, albeit Birmingham have a rumour to be interested in Dowell and Davies, and was it Aris, wasn't it, that was Cifuentes? So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But we're seeing players actually that we've not even really considered for quite a long period of time coming back in that we then need to try and get out.
Yeah,
like, the outgoings part of the discussion and the movement is going to be huge as well this summer.
It's quite the opposite from last year, where it felt like we couldn't buy until we sold. It's almost like we're buying and then we're going to sell. So it's probably that we'll see this influx and then of players coming in, and then all of a sudden it'll be trying to get players out the door. Like, you think of the players there that is likely to move on? Matondo, McCausland, Barami, I've already said Cifuentes, Davis, Dow. Who have I missed? I must have missed a few.
Quite a lot, eh?
Yeah. And then there's probably...
It'll be interesting as well. There's other players as well there. You're looking at players like Ridvan who may or may not go, but you're kind of half expecting to go. Jack Butland, what does the future hold for Jack Butland? At the end of last season, it looked like he would be straight out the door and be looking at somewhere else. I wonder what discussions have happened there. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Dessers as well, you'll probably see leaving.
My God.
Tom Lawrence, again, another one you're probably seeing out the door. There's quite a few there that you wouldn't be surprised to see. You'd actually probably be more surprised if they're still at Rangers by the time the new season starts than anything else. So there's a lot of movement, and these guys will be busy all the way up to the end of the transfer window, I'd imagine.
Yeah, what I find interesting and what I'm thinking ahead to, I touched on it the other night when we were on Sunday, was about us buying players depending on where we land in European competitions. If we get into Europa, okay. If we did, by hook or by crook, get into the Champions League, I wonder if we would go and splash on players and like try and bring in bigger names, if you know what I mean. I wonder if we're holding back a wee bit for that because we've not touched the front line yet. I know that's going to be dependent on outgoings, Igaman being one, which I think, if all reports are correct, probably going to be announced possibly tomorrow night that he's away to Lille. So you don't know if that's going to have a knock-on effect, but yeah, it's positive. We've went a full week of positive news. It's been a while at Rangers.
I saw they announced Olivier Giroud earlier on today as well as a new striker. So if Igaman needed any more reason to head off there, that's a very good one to play alongside him. Let's get stuck in, Kyran, to some of the news and some of the rumours. Joe Rothwell is one that kind of between rumour and scarf above the head was around 24, 25 hours or so from that, which is very much symptomatic of how the club seem to be doing their business now. And then Emmanuel Fernandez had been, first mention I'd heard of him was yesterday morning, and then by last night he was signed as well. What do you make of those two getting in the door? I actually saw a picture of Joe Rothwell. I'm not sure how true this is, but someone had said that he's well over 6 foot, and then Emmanuel Fernandez was standing beside him and was just absolutely towering over him from that situation. But what do you make of those two signings? And Emmanuel Fernandez was an interesting one in particular because obviously a young centre back coming from Peterborough. People are trying to work out, is he a development signing or is he a first team squad member? It's difficult when you don't know the fee to try and work that out, or it's just on the base of it. But as a 23-year-old, you'd imagine that he's coming in as a starter.
I don't know. I think that's going to be a development signing. When you look at everybody else that's been rumoured, Suter, experienced centre-back, been here a while. Coady, we're led to believe, is going to come in. He's not coming here to sit on a bench. And the boy, is it Njide? Is that how you pronounce it?
Djiga, yeah.
Djiga. So we're the front runners for that, as far as I know, but there is competition. These guys aren't coming in to sit on the bench, whereas we've signed Fernandez on a permanent. It's a long-term deal. It's a 4-year deal, and I quite like it. I know there's been a lot of negative press from the Peterborough fans, and when you listen to a podcast today, Derek Clark of the Rangers Review done a really good podcast with the guy that does the Up the Posh podcast, the Peterborough one, and he was saying that yes, for all he's very good, he can switch off a lot, but he's such a threat from set pieces because his height and his power. But the negative against that is it doesn't seem to translate in his defending and aerial ability. But from the information that you get is that Thelo and Purdy actually watched them in the FA Cup game against Everton at Goodison, and he caught their eye there. And it's quite difficult trying to get information and get footage on YouTube for a defender, because, and especially a young defender, because there's not exactly highlight reels of goals and assists and these sort of like tricks and stuff. So I've been trying to watch like highlights of the Virtue Cup final, the Virtue Trophy Cup final at Wembley, where he seemed to fare quite well. Kept a clean sheet against a Birmingham squad that was breaking scoring records all over the place. Done well against Everton. He's obviously caught their eye. And I read a tweet as well, which I think people asking the question of like, oh, we're seeing negativity, quite the opposite of the Rothwell stuff where it was all positive from the Leeds fans. Somebody made a good point saying, I wonder if they've checked this guy out and statistically it stacks up that he's maybe punching under his weight and he could do much better. So getting him at this point might be a bargain. So for me, again, I think this is a good signing. I like it on paper, not just because I'm a Rangers fan and we've signed a centre-back and we've been crying out for it, but when you look at our sort of last two big exits, Igaman going to be the third, you only really have to have a solid 6 months up here for somebody to come in and say that guy's got potential. Look at Nathan Patterson. How many games did they start? Did he even get double figures for the season?
Barely double figures, yeah. I think he did get double figures, but it was barely double figures. Yeah,
and then Calvin Bassey, he had some horror shows. He had some nightmares. I remember once it was against Sparta Prague away at centre-back with Balogun. You were thinking, how's this guy a football player? Next thing, we go on that European run. His value skyrockets. And then you look at Igaman, only came in at the squad in November, seemed to lose his place sort of February, March, and didn't really regain the number 9 spot. And it looks like we're going to get between 15 and 20 million. So taking a chance on these youngsters, you throw enough darts and one's going to hit the bullseye eventually. So I like it. 3.5 million, everybody's saying that's a lot of money. It's probably one of these ones, it's a deal worth 3.5 million. It's not that we will pay a total amount of 3.5 million, but in the grand scheme of things, 3.5 million in football these days, it isn't actually that much.
Yeah, absolutely. But Fernandez, obviously a centre half. You mentioned there about Connor Coady. John Souttar's already in the building, obviously, and then you've got Nasser Djiga as well from Wolves. That's rumoured. I think. And then I guess we've still got Nsiala there. Proper's probably on his way out the door. Balogun's obviously already left. So that's that would take us back up. That would take us up to 5 centre halves.
Ben Davis, come on, Craig.
Yeah. So far out of my mind that you're not even on that list. But lots of suggestions. And there's one here that Thomas H brought up. Says looks like he's building for a back 3 so far. Is that one that you think or potentially agree with?
I'm not so sure. I think if he was building for a back 3, I don't know what footed Djiga is, but I know that, and I'm going to get this guy's name wrong all night, but Connor Cody's a right footer, so usually if you're bound for a back 3, I think you'd be looking for a left-sided centre-back, and I don't think any of them are. I think it's just a case of if you're building a team and you're weak at the back, and you play 4 at the back, you're always going to try and carry 4 centre-backs. You think back to Gerrard's days at the club, especially 55 season. I think we went with, was it Hollander, Goldson, Balogun and Edmondson? Was he still around at this point? Yeah. So we always tried to carry 4 centre-backs. I think what you might see is possibly Nsiala being one that maybe goes out on loan. I think that would be good for his development, because I don't see he's bringing in 3 centre-backs, trying to keep Souttar around as well, and Nsiala getting any minutes whatsoever, because let's be honest, he didn't make squads towards the end of the season. He didn't even make the bench last year, so that might be good for him. I just can't really see he's building for a back 3 as much as I'd like to see it. I do like to watch teams play 3-5-2. I can't see us doing it, but again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think actually I've seen quite a lot. I think it was when Max Aarons signed. I've seen quite a lot of people suggesting it will be that sort of 3-5-2 with the sort of inverted fullbacks running up and down the wings. So I think that will be interesting to see. I mean, first game this weekend against Club Brugge, so Ibrox. So it'll be interesting to see just how the team's shaping up, and obviously it won't be the players that we hope to start the season, but it'll be the style of football won't be any different to what Russell Martin's trying to achieve with the team. So it'll be really interesting, I think, on Sunday from that one. What do you make of the rumours around Djiga from Wolves? He obviously, effectively, the suggestions are he was signed by Wolves from. I'll just call him Red Star Belgrade. I was going to go for Crvena Zvezda, but let's call him Red Star Belgrade. He was signed by them. He played a couple of games last year in the kind of League Cup around those kind of competitions, but they're suggesting sending him out on loan so he can adapt to the British game. What do you make of that as a suggested signing? 22 years old. He's obviously one that's got a high profile and high potential. So we've seen those work before, but we've also seen them fall flat in their face.
You're talking about Fabio Silva, aren't you? The last loanee from Wolves. So I'd hope it's nothing like that. But you've got to look at the positives here. We're after centre-backs. We need physical centre-backs, and he certainly looks in that ilk. They paid 10 million for him and tied him down to a contract until 2030. So that kind of says what it needs. Coming from Red Star, we've seen that in that Europa League run. That's no easy place to play football. I think it was raining chairs on the Rangers away end that night because their fans are absolutely crazy, and so he should be able to handle the support side of things and the negative side of football up here. But I'm right in saying he's 6'4" as well.
Yeah, but building a team of giants.
But we need that. We badly need that. You look around the team last year, and we lacked that height and physicality, and we tended to lose a lot of goals from set pieces. So the fact that a lot of clubs are after him would probably say that he has been looked at and they've put it out, and a lot of clubs really fancy him. Why I think he'd be a good fit for us, we're going to be playing competitively. He's going to be playing in a high line. He's going to be playing in a system. And yeah, I just think he would be suited to the physicality of Scotland. I don't think you get the same physicality in England. I think it's a wee bit more technical than, well, I know it's a bit more technical than what we've got up here, but I think he's got a bit of pace about him as well, and that's something that we seem to favour towards because we are so high in possession most games. So I think it would suit. Definitely an exciting signing if we can get it. This is one that probably we will sign Coady. We've signed Fernandez. It looks like we will sign 3 centre-backs in this window, if it's him or not. Like it looks like if we don't get him, we'll move on to the next target. And I like that because it really was an area of concern last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's the most uncertain of the ones that we'll talk about tonight, and but the links do seem pretty strong on that one, even though it's the least certain of them all. The one that seems to be moving quickly is, I'm going to say, Thelo Aasgard, currently at Luton, who've just been relegated, attacking midfielder, 23 years old. Rumoured that he'll sign for a fee around £5 million, which in previous years or previous summers or any transfer window would have been a fairly hefty fee. I wonder if we may get the chance to reset our baseline on that one in terms of what our average spend is on a player, and that's maybe where £3.5 million for Fernandez, for example, isn't as high as it would have been in previous years under previous ownership, etc., etc. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. But £5 million is the rumoured fee for Aasgaard. The all the stuff I've seen around him, all the talk around him, I've seen when he left Wigan, people think he should have went somewhere, a much bigger club than Luton. They're not quite sure why it was Luton that he chose, but they should have gone for a much bigger club, which is encouraging. He's made his Norwegian international debut as well, which is always really encouraging. I'm really excited. Yeah, I'm really excited by this one from what I've seen of him, and just his confidence on the ball, his confidence in himself in terms of how often he shoots from distance, his passing ability. It's all really encouraging for me for what I've seen.
Yeah, I love this one. I think we spoke about it on Sunday that you don't really get excited about centre backs and stuff. It's more about the flashy attacking players, and he comes under that bracket completely. The other thing, which probably not a lot of people have touched on, made 44 appearances last season. Like, he's robust for a 23-year-old as well. There's potential there. You watch him, he's strong as well. I watched the highlight reel, and you know the way that these are put together, but it's like, here's his goals, here's his assists, here's his passing. And the last part, it was just how many times he was fouled. Just like getting booted up and down. He just kept going. And I really like the look of this one, honestly. £5 million might turn out to be a bargain. And it's funny, like you said there, Craig, 3.5 might turn out to be not so much for Fernandez. But when you look at it this way, say tomorrow night it's announced about Igaman and Lille have paid, hypothetically, 17 million for him. You're talking 3.5 for Fernandez, 5 million for Aasgaard. That's that. We're not even at half of that yet. We're just at half of that money. That shows how the player trading model, done correctly, can rebuild your team.
Yeah, and I think we're also looking at Joe Rothwell as well, who we're not quite sure how much we've paid for him. The record, I think suggestions were a couple of £1 million roughly, around the 1.5 to 2.5 £1 million mark was where it was sitting. So there seems like there's plenty of space for that to grow. Dor Turgeman, for example, is one that's strongly rumoured to be our striker target. We're just waiting on that movement up front, like you said. So and that was around the £5 million mark as well. I do wonder if that £5 million will become the kind of average for our kind of startup space.
Well, the thing that we've got to compare it to is what Leeds are doing. Leeds tend to sign a lot of players for around about £5 million for a Premiership team. You've seen guys that haven't made a first team appearance go for that in England, or 5 times that sometimes. So it tends to be the norm with Leeds just now that's how much they're paying. But oh man, I'm absolutely buzzing with this Aasgaard one. When I seen it come about last night, it's one of the ones that surely this is just a rumour because we've just announced 2 players. But again, it seems that we want them in the door before the St George's training camp. Apparently, that will be done in the next 48 hours if everything is correct. I love the modern world of social media that somebody was able to find that his mum and dad started following the official Rangers account on Instagram. It's total detective work. But yeah, this is one that's exciting. What I'm intrigued about there is that where would they plan on playing him? Because he looks more like a 10 than an 8, but he can play off the left, so this could be interesting. But this is one I think especially that you could develop. I don't know too much about what he's been like at Wigan or Luton, but when you come here, you need to make sure you're working back the way as well as forward. And I think if he was to get a few goals under his belt at Ibrox, he looks the type of player that would buzz off a big crowd, like a real confidence player that could bring out the tricks and flicks and shots from distance when things are going well. But where you develop as a player like that is doing the dirty work on the other side, and that's, I think, where he could improve at Rangers. And yeah, I'd be delighted to see this one. This is one that gets us excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be really interesting to see where he plays, but we've been crying out for that number 10 that has that bit of creativity, that bit of sort of gallousness about them, and then has that ability to score goals as well. We've had so many false dawns on that one, and Tom Lawrence is the most recent of those false dawns in terms of players you just expect to kick on and do that, and we've not been able to achieve that as yet. What do you make, Kyran? There's been a lot made, I guess, of the fact that our transfer strategy is changed completely. A few years ago, all we were doing was signing players from England who were either struggling to make it in a Premier League team or were from the sort of Championship League One. We've went, and that seemed to change kind of last summer and the summer before. We signed loads of players from European leagues, from abroad, and it feels like we've just gone back to focusing much more on the English market. Is that something that you've noticed at all, or is that something? And is it something that concerns you, or is it something that you're just like, I trust in what these guys are doing at the moment, and I'll trust them until I'm proven wrong.
Yeah, I think I'll trust them until proven wrong. Like, let's break it down a wee bit. Like Max Aarons, we know he's a good player. He's probably one that falls under. He's been down on his luck, and we could improve him, and hopefully he does that well that we can get him to stick around afterwards. He knows Russell Martin. Russell Martin knows him. Rothwell knows Russell Martin. Russell Martin knows him. Fernandez, that's just come in. Thelo and Purdy have watched them at length. I think they played around about the New Year time in the FA Cup, if I'm right in saying that, January. They've been watching this boy for a while, so they know what they're looking at. Aasgard, I think, is going to fit under the same bracket. If he's been watched for a while, then he's been watched with the eye of possibly going to Everton, and that's probably saying something. So I don't mind where we look as long as the players fit a profile. It felt like last season that we had a group of players that it was a scattergun approach. We didn't really know what we were signing. We weren't signing for a style. We weren't signing for a particular plan. It was just that we were signing good players for the sake of they'll fit Clement's, or well, I was going to say style there, but it didn't really have one, did it? So it was that. How many times did we watch Rangers last year and say, we've not got pace, we've no MD that can beat a man apart from Czerny, and he's not ours. We lacked identity completely, and it looks like the type of signings we're making, you look at the three centre-backs that we're after, they're big boys, they're physical, they're good ball players going by the metrics. You look at Joe Rothwell, good ball carrier. Diamandi, good ball carrier. Raskin, good ball carrier. Right, three similar profiles in the middle. And Aasgard as well, good ball carrier, strong ball carrier. They all sort of fit the same profile. So it looks like we've actually got a strategy and a bit of a plan in mind for who's been identified and who can come in and play in that style under Russell Martin. And that goes a long way to sort of future-proofing as well. So if things unfortunately didn't go Russell Martin's way and he was replaced, we would then be looking for someone who can also fit what we have signed. It's something we've lacked for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. It was something I've not really thought about, because I was actually thinking earlier on, it's a bit frustrating that we've not got a striker on the horizon, or we've not got, that's the kind of one that excites you. But just bringing up this comment from Paul McGorrigle, says, look what Walter did the second time, he built from the back. And I guess that seems to be what we're doing. We're building that spine, we're building that foundation for the squad to then give us that solid base to go forward. They
also built a British core, and that's what we're seeing at the moment as well. Now, you said about the striker as well there, Craig. Turgeman's probably one that we'll pull the trigger on once the Iggerman stuff's fully through. I know that Matija Friggin was on the radar as well.
Hull, hasn't he, today? The Hull City.
Yes, but I've just seen in the comments, and I've not looked at it or confirmed this, breaking news, Hull hit with transfer embargo. I don't know if that's went through. So, yeah, aside from that, see, when you look at the metrics and stuff, when you look at how they play, Turgeman and Friggin were so alike as well. So again, very similar profile for a very similar price. So it all adds up.
Yeah.
But it's only positive. It's good we're talking about incomings and transfers, and yeah, it's been a good week, good few days.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward now to the first pre-season friendly at Ibrox. Rangers playing Club Brugge on Sunday. I'm losing track of days of the week at this moment in time. Playing on Sunday. Kyran and I will be there for the podcast. What are you hoping to see in that game, Kyran? Is it a case of just seeing the new players and getting a bit of a start of a sense of what they've got to offer, or is it looking at Russell Martin's team set up? What are you expecting to see, and what are you looking forward to seeing at that game?
Yeah, I think when you see managers come in for the first time, I remember under Clement, it was his first game, Hibs at Ibrox, and it was like you're picking apart everything he's done and trying to pick up bits and pieces of patterns to try and work out how he's going to set up and how we're going to do things and try and picture what it's going to be like. I think what we will see is minutes in the legs, basically, because we've had one behind closed doors game against TNS, and a lot of this squad are only back yesterday and today and possibly some tomorrow. So it won't surprise me that we don't really see much in terms of first-team starters. It was probably going to be a lot of the guys that have been doing the pre-season for the past week, which is disappointing, but we'll probably see more of the real deal come the Middlesbrough game. What I'm looking forward to seeing, and what anybody looks forward to in these games, is new signings. I'm really looking forward to seeing Rothwell and Aarons, and hopefully Lyle Cameron's fit enough. He's got over his calf niggle. And Fernandez as well, that we see real minutes in the legs for these guys. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It reminds me a wee bit of, remember when we had signed Tav and Warburton, and it was Tav and Waghorn, it was Warburton's first game at Ibrox against Burnley, and you're watching all the new players and you're getting a wee bit excited. And I remember Tav stood out like a sore thumb that day, so it feels a wee bit like that. And it's good to see Rangers back, put it that way. It sounds crazy, but I've missed it.
I know it's weird how you go through a season where none of us wanted to see Rangers again for quite a long time. They go quiet for 2 to 3 weeks, and then it all just builds up and you get that excitement again. And we're not far away from that first Champions League qualifier against Panathinaikos, just a few weeks left until that one. Right, that's us at the half-hour mark. These midweek podcasts are going to be a little bit shorter, just at that 30 minutes roughly for that. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you very much, Kyran, for joining us. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do make sure you subscribe to the TII YouTube channel or wherever you get your audio podcasts. Helps us massively, and also means you don't miss out on any of the upcoming content. Kyran and I will be at the game on Sunday for the podcast, and then we'll be live on Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. With the team, just going over what we've seen that day, but also the latest movements and trials and tribulations of the Rangers transfer window as well. But thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Until next time, goodbye.